is concerned with the state of one's soul, okay? He wants us to be virtuous, but here's something he's dealing with. He's dealing with sophists whose goal, they learn rhetoric in order to win the argument. Truth is not the goal for sophistry. Victory is winning the argument. It's kind of like lawyers. Are lawyers worried about the truth or winning the case? Right? Now, that's a pretty cynical view of attorneys, right? Attorneys shouldn't take the case if they don't believe they have the truth. They should drop the case when they are convinced that they don't. Okay? For example, a prosecutor trying to try somebody for murder should drop the case once he determines that the person is not guilty, correct? One who continues the case to try to prove that the other person is guilty even though he didn't do it, that would be immoral. But the sophists are like that. Their goal is power. Their goal is to use rhetoric, the art of speaking and arguing, to win the day, to convince others of their point of view. Unfortunately, we see that all too often right now in our movies, in our news, by our politicians, by our professors, not HBUs, of course. Sophistry. The goal is truth, and the truth is often uncomfortable. And so one of the things Socrates does is he questions these sophists, these people who think that they're so wise because they have an ability to make use of this rhetoric to win arguments. And he pokes holes in it by merely asking questions. And they're simple questions, aren't they? They're questions a 5-year-old would ask. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What is justice? What is virtue in this case? Right? What is it? We often judge other people. Oh, that person's this, that, the other. We don't like this person because of their virtue. But what do we mean when we say this stuff? What is virtue? Young lady, what's your name again?
Allison.
Allison. Can you tell me what virtue is? Do you know, have you ever heard the word?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what a good person is?
Yeah.
What's that? Then what do you mean by good?
There can be like a lot of different demons for good.
Like what? Just look for the word good. What does it mean? There are different definitions, types of definitions. So a nominal definition is, we use this word good to tag certain things, right? You're talking about G-O-O-D, the actual language, the letters, right? But then you have the essential definition of good. We're talking about the object called goodness that we use the word to tag, okay? What is that object called goodness? Allison, very simple question, but a very difficult one to answer, right? Can you help me with it?
What is good?
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yes. Then what's bad? What's bad?
Like doing things that could harm someone or yourself.
I harm myself every day. And I harm others every day. Okay, is that bad? Is it always bad to harm people? So let's imagine a physician going in and cutting out a tumor. Right, that's kind of some harm, but is that bad?
No.
Okay. Has anybody ever lifted weights in here before? Yeah. When you lift weights, you are making micro tears in your muscle fibers. Okay, that's harming. Is that a bad thing?
No, because it helps you build muscle. As you break the muscle down.
But it is harming, though. Would you agree with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's so just the fact saying don't harm anybody might not be enough, okay? Now, the ultimate harm we could say is bad, like killing somebody, but is that always bad?
No,
Why not?
you gotta protect yourself. There could be a situation.
Yeah, like if I say, I'm gonna get really mad here and do something really vicious and violent to y'all, right? And I think you'd all be right to defend yourselves, okay? And that might harm me, right? Does that make sense? So it's not that. Let's go with you, young lady. What's your name? Celine. Celine, what is good? What do you mean by that word? See, this is what you don't get on the video, is the professor saying, Celine, what is good? Yeah.
Like, an example?
An example. However, if you gave me an example, that's probably a little bit about what Mino does, doesn't he? He starts giving examples of things that are virtuous, right? And give me some examples. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? We talked about the other day, even in this class, sharing, kindness, self-sacrifice, right? Stuff like that. If you watch the video and you go, well, what is it about those things? And I talked about, did you see what the answer I gave kind of, did you get a chance to watch the video yet? You got to watch the video because there'll be questions about it, right? So that's that. I'm going to go right back to that video. I'm going to find questions for it. And we're having the same discussion that we had the other day. And we're talking about, how do we determine that which is good? One of the ways you can do it is you can take the paradigm examples of that which is good, such as self-sacrifice, right? Altruism, you can do charity, being peaceful, patient, kind, all those good things. And then you can look at them and you go, what do they all have in common? What?
It helps somebody greater than yourself. It helps others. All
Yeah,
those
so
aspects.
but helping is good, but why is it good? What does it mean to be good? What does it mean to be good? That word, what is that in reference to? And how do you determine that this act is good and this act is good? Remember, when you say helping others, we could help them move a body to avoid justice. Well, that's not good. We could help them, hurt people in vicious ways. That's not good, right? And so we go, well, what do we mean by this? Again, how do we determine this? Go ahead, Celine.
Would you say it would be moral?
Yeah, but that's another word for good. So what do we mean by that? What is the object that word tags? If I say podium, right? Now I could use other words, something to place the book on, to stand behind where I speak, and you can understand those things. But really what I mean is an object that word tags, okay? Is there such thing as, and now is goodness physical? I'm physical, and I also am non-physical, okay? There is a non-physical component to me, my soul. I'll go, but is goodness something I can touch, taste, smell, hear?
No.
No. Does it exist?
Yes.
Does it have to be physical to exist? And some will believe that. Now, I told you earlier in the semester via the internet that, there are three areas of philosophy. There's epistemology, metaphysics, and ethics. This discussion of existence has to do with metaphysics, okay? So I don't want to jump too far ahead on that. Right now what we're dealing with is Plato and his dialogues on how he inquires about things. So it gets you into the mood or the method of inquiry so that later on in life you could ask these questions. When somebody's trying to tell you X is the truth, and you go, is it? Is it really? And you ask them some very simple questions, and they profess to know, and then you really quickly find out, yeah, they don't. They don't know. Or maybe they do, and they inspire confidence in you, but you at least have a method of inquiry now that you didn't before, and that's the greatness of Socrates. I don't agree with Socrates on everything, Plato on everything, but I do like the method that we could ask, what do you mean by this? Okay. So we started this class, the semester, by asking, was philosophy? Philosophy is the love of wisdom. Wisdom is what? Knowledge rightly applied to its proper end. That's what we said. Then we had to ask the question, what is knowledge? We started asking the other question, do you have to believe something to have knowledge? Do you recall that? And how many of you believe that you can know something without believing it? If you watched the video, you saw that that's a very difficult thing to do, to say, I believe the wall exists, or I should say, I know the wall exists, but I do not believe it exists, right? So it seems to be that belief is necessary for knowledge. What about some kind of justification for knowledge? If I know something is good, right, should I not be justified somehow in believing it? And how are the ways one would justify a belief? We discussed that you could justify beliefs through what? The senses, like see, touch, taste, smell, hear, or what's the next one? Did I say smell? Okay, or that. Whatever the 5 senses are. I can learn that way. I can learn another way. I can use through reason. If A is taller than B and B is taller than C, then A is taller than C, right? It's either Bob or John. It's not John, therefore it must be Bob. Okay? Either A or B, not A, therefore B. Okay? That's logic. That's reason. We do that all the time. You don't even need to know who Bob and John are. Okay? Either Bob or John committed the murder. We know John didn't do it because John was here. He has an alibi. Therefore, it must be Bob. He's the only one left. Then you have memory. You can remember things, and from those memories, you could draw conclusions and learn things from them that you were not aware of at the time. I can give you examples, right? And then testimony. Somebody could tell you, okay? They could tell you stuff. I saw Jesus after he was on the cross. After they had taken him down, they had placed him in the tomb. They embalmed him. He was dead. They pierced his side with a spear. And then I saw him 3 days later. He ate with me. He showed me the holes in his hands. And then I am not taking that back, even though you will kill me for it. Okay? It's a pretty powerful dose of testimony once you know all the apostles and disciples, I should say, were killed for their testimony as to the risen Lord Jesus Christ. Scripture is testimony. Your history books are testimony. You have testimony on the witness stand in courts, right? And we could examine testimony. We could ask questions about this. See if what to what degree their testimony is accurate. Memories can be accurate or inaccurate, correct? Your senses, can they be accurate or inaccurate? Yes, they can, and we'll talk a lot about that. Can reason be accurate or inaccurate? It can be true or false, correct or incorrect, okay? You can't have 2 + 2 = 4 and be like 50% correct. You're either 100% correct or you're not, right? Would you agree with me? Bob is either taller than John or he is not taller than John. Can you be half correct on that?
I mean, if you break John's legs.
No, then he would no longer be taller than Bob. Or actually, we had it backwards. So yeah, he was taller than John. Do you know who Nancy Kerrigan is?
No.
Tonya Harding?
No.
Oh boy. Back in the
ice
90s.
skater, right?
The ice skater, yeah. Back in the, I think it was the 90s, during the Olympics, she was an ice skater. And Tonya Harding, her boyfriend, I think, or something, they hired somebody to break, her legs. Tonya Harding got out of it like all famous and made a bunch of money. She's on TV. She's a TV personality. I think she went to jail, but and Kerrigan just went off into history as being the victim, and nobody says, So anyway, all right. So we're dealing with when we deal with Plato, he's asking questions about the nature of things, about morality. Okay, those are the 2 other fields of philosophy. We go from epistemology, about knowledge, then we go into metaphysics, about reality, the nature of things, like do non-physical things exist, Celine? Like, can I say goodness exists in reality if there's you know, if everything is physical, how could goodness exist? What would that mean? To what would that refer, right? Do numbers exist? Right, that's a metaphysical question. And then we get to the third area, which is really kind of what Plato likes to get to, is the nature of goodness, of virtue, of justice. But he does so by using the other fields of philosophy. Now he's going to believe certain things about us, about knowledge. He's going to believe that knowledge, once we get to the Meno, he's going to believe that knowledge is what? Recollection. Plato believes that we're reincarnated. I don't believe that. He believes the soul exists. I agree with him on that. He believes that it is reincarnated, okay? That it is eternal. I don't buy that. Now, I don't buy it for certain reasons, but some are theological, but others are philosophical. We're going to talk about the nature of the soul as we get into metaphysics, okay? But he believes that knowledge is recollection. What does he mean by that? How many of you have actually read Meno already? Okay, it's all been assigned, right? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, he said that because we have been living the whole time, that we know everything and we just like forgot it and we should remember it since we already knew it previously.
Yeah, we have to just recall it. And so what does he do? How does he show this in the book, the Meno?
He teaches the slave geometry.
Teaches the slave geometry. Are you good at geometry? I love it. Did you understand the equation you did as you read it?
I haven't finished it. I was just getting
Okay.
to it.
You see it though in there, and you're like, oh crud, that thing. How many of you read that and got to the geometric equation? You? Selena, did you understand it? No? How many of you have taken geometry? Y'all should have taken geometry. I say y'all should have, but that's not necessarily true. Some of you took pre-algebra and, and that's okay. How many of you have used algebra today? If I can find a piece of chalk, we can do this on the board. And let me get a piece of chalk. Don't pause that. Because I want to do this. Clearly, we live in a world of erasers, but no chalk. I found it. So he's going to use, now he's not, the goal of the Meno isn't to teach geometry, right? The goal of geometry is to prove something. And he's trying to prove if this boy can do the geometrical problem without me teaching him how to do it, then he already knew it, he's just recalling it. Now that's false. I think all he's really proven is that the kid has reason, right? The innate ability to recognize the truth. Okay, and I would argue that as you read this, you will see that Socrates actually is guiding him in how to do it. And we also have to remember the kid, this is a dialogue and not necessarily reality. Okay, the slave boy doesn't necessarily exist. How many of you have had dialogues like this in your lifetime? No interrupting, no changing of the subject, no, you see what I'm saying? And but let's do this so you understand it. Socrates, you see this square here, and he says it's 2 feet by 2 feet, which makes it how many square feet?
4.
4. That's pretty easy. He wants to know what it would take to double the area, to turn it into an 8-foot square, right? How would you do that? And the question is, do you just go this way 2 more feet, right? And this way 2 more feet? So now you got 4 and 4. Is that how to do it, Selena? Celine, sorry? That is not how to do it, because we're trying to get 4 to 8. And that's not going to be 4 to 8. That's going to end up being how many?
4 by 4.
It's going to be 16. Okay? So that didn't seem to be the right way to do it. So how do we do it? Well, what he ends up doing is he says, well, it's kind of a weird way to do it. I'm going to blow this every time I know it. So what you want to do somehow is you want to, half of 16 is what, guys? What? 8, yeah. So somehow we want to cut that in half, and what he ends up doing is he does it by doing this. And he shows the slave boy how to do this, where, how many boxes, if this is cut in half here, right? And each one of these is 1 foot, right? How many feet is that triangle? It's half a foot, right? And that would be a half a foot. And if you put that together, how many feet is that? And if you put this whole one together with that other whole one, what is it called?
2.
2. And how many of these things do you have in this area? You have
4.
1, 2, 3, 4, right? Each one's 2. And how many feet does that end up being?
8.
8, right. So basically what he's saying is if you took the 2 feet right here, you just bisected that, you have 2 feet, right? You just square this, whatever that may be. You know? And he explains that. And of course he does it with the slave boy who's not been taught geometry. And so because of that, he suggests that the boy was not taught it, but he merely recalled it from a past life. Okay? And so he knows these things, it's just a matter of recalling them. So, Plato's view, and when I say Plato, you realize Socrates is doing the talking, right? Plato uses Socrates as his mouthpiece. The earlier writings of Plato seem to reflect Socrates' teaching. The later ones just seem to go, okay, Plato may be diverging from Socrates a bit. Okay, so, but at this point, he's using this to teach what? Recollection, okay, that our knowledge is recollection. I don't buy it. I don't think you need to either, because if you go backwards, how many lives does, our souls are eternal? That would mean how many lives would we have had? Well, how many incarnations? 3, 2, 1,000?
Infinite.
An infinite number? Can we cross an actual infinite? What is an infinite? If you go back 100 million lifetimes, not even years, let's go lifetimes, okay? 100 million. Is that the beginning, or do you have 100 million before it? Infinite. If you go back 100 million lifetimes, you'd still have an infinite number of lifetimes before that, would you not?
Yeah.
You'd never have a place to start. Where did you get the knowledge to begin with? That's the question. He doesn't address that. He doesn't address the original life, or where you from where you come that you got this knowledge originally. And so it seems to me, if you're recalling it from a particular former life, didn't you have to recall it from a former life? Didn't you have to recall it from a former life and recall it from a former life? Makes sense? And it just keeps going back ad infinitum. So that's one reason I don't buy it. I don't buy the reincarnation thing either. It also violates scripture, which says we were born once and then we are judged. So go with that. Okay. So the two things I want you to get from Euthyphro and the Meno are, one, how he approaches it. He asks questions. He's asking questions in Euthyphro about piety, okay, and some of the problems with that. And he's asking, it's the method, that's what I'm saying. And then the subject matter. It's not just the method, that's the first thing. The subject matter is the second thing, and that is piety and virtue. And so if we're asking what piety is, if you listen to the last one, we discussed how it is, I believe, grounded in the nature of God, okay? Not grounded in God's will, because that could be arbitrary, but God's will is grounded in his nature, and his nature is good, thus his commands will be good, his will be good. He cannot command otherwise, because that would be like God being non-God. God cannot be non-God, because if God is good by nature, God cannot violate his own nature, okay? The second thing is when it comes to, that was piety, but virtue, right? What is virtue? What is virtue grounded in? Again, virtue is grounded in God. But, you know, we ask the question here, are you born with it, or can you be taught it? Are there good people because they're born that way, or did you become that way? Did you start bad and can you become good? Or, I mean, how many of you know some good people out there? 1, 2, 3. How many of you know some bad people out there? Nobody knows any bad people? I can list a couple. Jeffrey Dahmer. Anybody know who Jeffrey Dahmer is? Jeffrey Dahmer, you know, guy was drugging young men and trying to turn them into sex machines by drilling holes in their head and pouring like acid in their frontal lobes and stuff like that, trying to make them like these living sex automatons, I don't know, you know, zombies or whatever we'll call them. And then he ate a bunch of them, I think. You know this story, right? Or you know him. Yeah. And then they put him in this weird prison, like from Silence of the Lambs, and some guy got to him and killed him, right? Nobody mourned him, right? Everybody's like, is he bad? Could he have been good? He could have been good?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what, I mean, could he have been taught? Now, let's go the opposite route. Let's go with some good people. You know some good people that just seem to be good people, right? Would you agree?
100%.
Were they born that way?
No.
They weren't?
I don't think you were born that way.
Ever? Nobody's, I mean,
Born
are there
to be
some
good?
people, look. You're an athlete?
Yeah.
What do you,
Play football.
okay, what position?
Slot receiver.
Right, okay. So you're a slot receiver. Do you think you're a little faster than I am?
Bro.
What?
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. He didn't even have to race
What?
me. Do you understand I'm a runner?
That's fine. You can be whatever you
I'm a
want.
distance runner. I'm a marathoner.
Whatever you want to
You can be whatever you want. Okay, now, all right. Do you think that if I try hard enough and work
Right.
really hard, that one day I could be as fast as you are? Do you think that there was ever a time in my life
Right.
that if I did, I could have been as fast as you are?
No.
Okay, so you think you were born fast?
I was born fast.
There you go. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. Okay, you have an innate ability to be faster than I am.
Right.
You'd agree with that, right?
100%.
You'd agree that he doesn't even know, man. He could go into my room and I could be this world-class sprinter and he doesn't even know it, but he's confident. He's correct. You are correct. You would tear me up. I guarantee it, because I'm slow. Not in marathoning, I'm okay. That's 26 miles.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, not yet. One day you will. maybe partial. Somebody challenge you, like, yeah. Point being is, we are born with some things, and some, are we out of time? Yeah, I see rumbling, and that happens. What's the point as I go out? There may be something to that innateness of moral virtue, but it doesn't mean we can't improve, okay? We're gonna talk about that more later, okay? Just ask that question. Write it down. I know you're all, yeah, but I just put everything away. Write it down, bring it back, and discuss it with me.
Could you
Go.
repeat that?
What is moral virtue?
Well, right, yeah. Are we born with innate moral virtue, or can it be taught? It's the very first question in the Meno. So we want to know if you're virtuous because you're born that way, or can you become a better person? Okay? Look, some people are really nice. But niceness isn't necessarily virtuous. Okay? It can be. But all right. Well, thanks for your patience. Glad to see your faces, or at least the top part of them. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.